Hey, welcome to Compass. My name is Brandon. I'm one of the pastors here. So glad to have you with us. Here at Compass, we say our mission is navigating people to God. And I'm just excited to be here. I want to shout out to Lauren, who's joining us from Brazil via our online campus. Great to have all of you watching us there, watching us online. Listen, today's the final message in our series, I Love the 90s. And I feel like I'm the perfect person to finish the series because I love the 90s, okay? The 90s were like my heyday. I finished high school football in the 90s. Here I am. Come on, check it out. Come on. And I wish I could grow hair like that. I don't have to do like a magic show to make it look like it's still there. And I wish I still had that metabolism. Those were good days. I don't know if you know this or not, but I met and worked for our lead pastor, Drew Sherman, in the early 90s, like 91, 92. And since he's not here, I thought he misses you guys. We should show a picture of Drew and I together back in the day. And I tried to pick a picture that was really good, real flattering picture of Drew. Now, before Drew became a preacher, I don't know if you realize this or not, but Drew really wanted to be a worship pastor. Like that's what he wanted to do. And I have some VHS video of him auditioning for our worship team. And I just wanted to see, are you guys at all interested in seeing that? Okay, let's go ahead and roll that. Yeah. Hey, great news. Drew will be back next week. That's good news. And I'll be looking for another job. So that's gonna be good to have him back. And I'm excited about that. But no, Drew's gonna be back next week. I know you're excited. I know I'm excited to have Drew, and his freckles and his massive biceps and his kind of snug polo shirts are all gonna be right here on this stage. He's gonna be back as we start this new series. Again, if you're hiring, let me know. During this I Love the 90s series, we've been talking about how there are things that are fads that we need to leave in the past. And there are spiritual truths and spiritual practices that we need to take with us into the future. And as we finish up this series, I Love the 90s, we want to kind of just have some fun and then get into the message. But we're going to vote on some of our favorite things from the 90s. So let's have a little competition first between movies, some of the best movies of the 90s. You're going to applause and show what you like the best. So here we go. How many of you say, nope, it's Titanic is the best? Titanic's the best. All right. I'm the king of the world. And how many of you say Braveheart? No, it's Braveheart. Ooh, okay. Sorry, Jack and Rose, you lose. Okay. Next one, we got TV shows, right? TV shows. Here we go. It's a tough one. How many of you, Seinfeld, is it? Okay. How many of you are like, nope, it's Friends. Oh, yeah. Some of these students down here are like, I don't know what's happening right now. They was not even born. I have just keep clapping. It's all good. Well, definitely no soup for you, Seinfeld. Friends wins. All right, here we go. Music, come on. How many of you say, it's the Backstreet Boys? How many of you say, no, the band to go with is NSync? Okay. Bye, Backstreet Boys. Justin Timberlake, we love you. Okay. Hey, one of the most popular shows, please take that down. All right, one of the most popular shows in the 90s was a show called Family Matters. And the entire show revolved around the Winslow family and their neighbor who was nerdy, clumsy, irritating, yet sweet and kind-hearted. His name was Steve Urkel. And if you don't know who Urkel is, let's just introduce you to Steve Urkel.
Howdy doody do. Hi, Mr. Winslow. I'm Steve Urkel. Hi, honey, I'm home. What's up? No fear, Cupid's here. Hi, Eddie.
Urkel, why don't you ever knock?
Well, if I did, nobody would ever let me in.
Please, party on.
Good night, everybody.
People loved watching the Winslow family be inconvenienced by Steve Urkel. He would go in and make a mess of things. He would break things. He would cause a huge mess. And he'd always stick his hands in his front pocket and go, "Did I do that?" And people just loved watching Urkel make a mess of things. And I think one of the reasons that Steve Urkel became a household name in the 90s is because we love this idea of acceptance. We just loved it. We loved the idea that there was this really strange neighbor that would show up, and despite his quirks, the Winslow family was like, "Hey, you're welcome. You are one of ours." And I believe that for all of us, we love that. We want acceptance. We want relationships in our lives, whether we like to admit it or not. And the truth is, God created each and every one of us with a connection requirement. That's why one of our core values here at Compass is engage, to connect with people, because we believe that following Jesus is not something you do on your own, but that life is a spiritual journey meant to be traveled on and gone with in a group of people and with others supporting you. You know, it was 1991 when I got my first job in ministry, and was so excited to be working in the church and just kind of start being a pastor. That was going to be so fun for me. And I studied Jesus and his death, his burial, his resurrection. I saw clear evidence that he said and did the things that happened in the Bible. I saw all this evidence in and outside Scripture, and I was so excited as I would read about the early church, because Jesus left a small group of people behind to start the church, and all these amazing things happened. And I thought to myself, this is exciting. I can't wait to help the modern day church experience some of the things we read about in the Bible. Because I read things like this about the early church. It says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship and to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. Selling their possessions and goods, they gave to anyone as he had a need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together at Whataburger with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. I love that. But it's really evident when we read about the early church that the church, they did not view church as a box that you showed up at and heard some music and then someone talked for 30 minutes. They looked at the church as a family, as a place to connect, as a place to support one another. And so I read Acts 2 as a young pastor and thought to myself, we'll get people into groups. They'll devote themselves to Jesus, to each other, and this kind of Acts 2 community will break out all over the place, and it will change families and communities. It'll change our nation. I was so excited. And I believed back then, and I still believe today, that we need this Acts 2 kind of community. Are you paying attention to what's happening in our world right now, in our society right now? The church desperately needs to be the place where people can come, or where people are welcome to come and feel connection and belonging and say, hey, even if you don't believe, you're welcome to come and be a part of what's going on here. We desperately need that. But here's the problem. I quickly discovered as a young pastor that this whole Acts 2 community was a lot harder to achieve than I thought. As a matter of fact, after about 28 years of ministry, there are days I think, you know what, I think it might be an impossibility. I'm not even sure it can happen, because there are multiple roadblocks that stand in the way for me and for you to kind of be part of this kind of community. The first community roadblock is people. That's right, people. In Mark 12:31, Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. And we're like, yes, that's it. Like, how many of you think that's what our world needs? We need it, right? You're just like, this is what's wrong. We got to love each other. We're like, yes, let's do it. Let's love each other. That sounds great unless Steve Urkel's your neighbor, right? That sounds great unless your neighbor is Newman, right? That sounds great unless your neighbor is my brother. That's right. This is my brother, Chris. Hi, Chris. It's my mom. And my brother, I love my brother. He's a strange cat. And I'm going to tell you something about my brother that's 100% true that happened a few years ago. And it may just confirm to you that you may want to just lock yourself in your house and not get to know your neighbors. I see my brother was asked by his neighbors to watch their dog while they went away on vacation. And tragically, after the neighbors left, went on vacation, tragically this dog, while he was watching it, died in my brother's backyard. And he didn't want to ruin their vacation, so my brother decided, you know what I'll do? I won't call them. I'll just wait till the vacation's over, and then I'll share the news with them when they get back. And then he did something that's incomprehensible. He took that dog and he put it in his freezer. Like Han Solo frozen in carbonite, my brother put the dog in the freezer. Like Austin Powers, he froze the dog to preserve it for the future. When the neighbors came home, they showed up, my brother's front door, he shared the news with them, they're grieving, their dog has died. My brother says, hold on a minute. He goes back to the garage, he grabs the frozen dog and hands it to his neighbors. To this day, we call it the pupsicle. I like otter pup, but that didn't stick. Listen, if strange neighbors and people that are just crazy don't stop you from getting into community, busyness will. Busyness will do it. Your schedule will do it. In the 90s, the great theologians, country music's Alabama, wrote this song, and it just describes our whole society. And we just resonated with this song because we're like, yep, this is me. Feel free to sing along. I'm in a hurry to get things done. Oh, I rush and rush until life's no fun. All I really gotta do is live and die, but I'm in a hurry and don't know why. Oh, you don't wanna sing, do you? You don't wanna sing. My singing career is just over right there. But that song was so great because we're like, yes, I'm in a hurry, I don't know why. I rush and rush until life is no fun. And people come to our church all the time and say, hey, I wanna get connected in community. I wanna be involved. I wanna build relationships. We say, great, tell us when you're free. And they go, okay, let me see. Monday, I got a personal trainer that night. Tuesday is basketball league at the rec. Wednesday, I got PTA meeting, then some special time with my DVR that night. Thursday, I typically work late. Friday, if I'm not traveling for kids' sports, I got tickets to the theater, season tickets things. Saturday is volleyball with my daughter, so we're gone all day in volleyball tournaments. Sunday, if we can't, we're typically traveling with travel baseball, so we catch church online in the car while we're driving to Houston. Sound familiar? And I'm like, oh, it's no problem. We got a perfect group for you. We have a nocturnal community group that meets. And it's at 1 a.m. on Sunday, you'll be fine. Another roadblock to community is kids. That's right. No amens there, but it's true. A number of years ago when our kids were little, we had this group at our house, we're hosting a group at our house, and the topic of the study was anger. And as this person was sharing his story and sharing how God was helping him get past his temper and controlling his anger, I could see over his shoulder the person sharing our group in the other room. And the kids in our group were going crazy, like living la vida loca, like they were out of control. And I saw one of the older kids pick up my son's electronic fire truck, his favorite toy. And he picked it up and he started going out the back door, and like a javelin, he threw this thing into the pool. And at that very moment, I just turned into the Hulk. I just lost it. I stood up, I interrupted this poor guy that's sharing his heart, and I just went into the other room and I unleashed my wrath on these little terrorists who were destroying our house. And then I turned around and I went back into the living room and I sat down like a Precious Moments doll. Hey, let's talk about Jesus and anger. So you guys get all your kids out of my house. Like, it's really tough to do community with kids. And I know, Jesus said, let the little children come to me. Moments like that, I'm like, let the little children have NyQuil. And don't get me wrong, like, I love my kids. I just don't love your kids. And you know what I'm saying. It's true. So if weird people and busyness and kids don't stand in the way of community, conflict comes in and just puts a nail in the coffin. Because this whole idea of community sounds so good and so great until you get into someone's living room, until you get involved in someone's life, until the messiness of your life or their life intersects, and then you've got to figure out how to make this thing work. A few years ago, I sent a guy who was going through a divorce to a community group. He was looking for some support. I called him the next day. I said, hey, how did it go? He goes, not so great. I said, oh, I'm sorry. What happened? He goes, well, I showed up at the group, went into the living room. My ex-wife was there with her new boyfriend that I didn't know about. Yeah, this guy signed up for a community group and we sent him to the Jerry Springer show. Now, despite all those roadblocks that stand in the way of community, like Steve Urkel, we still desire to belong. We still want to have connection, despite all those roadblocks. And it doesn't matter what your excuse is, introvert, extrovert, or whatever your weird Enneagram number is, whatever you want to say. God created all of us with a connection requirement. We see it from the very beginning of time. Genesis 2:18, God creates the first man, and he says, it is not good for man to be alone. Jesus himself did not carry out his own ministry alone. He did so with a group of friends, a group of close-knit friends, men and women. And if there's anyone that could have gone solo, it would be Jesus. The book of Acts we read, the early church was built on small groups of people living out their faith together in community. But here's the thing, when you and I reject this God-given need for community, we suffer. We struggle. This won't be easy, but I want you to think about the times in your life when you've done the most regretful things, when you've struggled the most. I promise you, those are the times most likely that you were alone. Or those were the times that you did not have good friends. And what I mean by good friends is maybe you didn't have any friends, or maybe you had friends that were taking you down the wrong road. 1 Corinthians 16:33 says, bad company corrupts good character, and the opposite is true. Who you hang out with will show your future. We have this connection requirement. And I know that there's some of you that have struggles and things in your life that you don't know what to do, or maybe it's a secret. And the reason you're struggling with that is because no one knows about it, because you're not connected with others. And you need those friends. You need that support of others. So as difficult as community is to achieve, I know I can't live without it. And I know you can't live without it. And that's why the reasons I love community far outweigh my frustrations with it. I love the kind of authentic biblical community that we're called to live in, because it's focused on Jesus Christ. It's focused on living out his teachings. I love it because we're called to do more than just have meetings together. We're called to do life together. Acts 2:46 describes how the first Christians did life together. It says every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. It's obvious they made spending time together a priority. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts. Their relationships were consistent. Their relationships, they ate together and they had this strong connection, and it filled them with joy. And research is showing us time and time again, recent research has shown us that people who are in community, people who are in interdependent relationships, they experience, like it was in Acts chapter 2, this is what they experience. They are happier, they're more fulfilled, they lose and keep off weight, they have longer lasting relationships, they do better in school, and they have better self-awareness. Later in the book of Acts, Acts 4:32, it says, all the believers were one in heart and mind, and no one claimed that any of their possessions was their own, but they shared everything they had. I believe with all my heart that these kind of unselfish, sacrificial relationships are what we all long for, what we all need. In the mid-90s, about 5 years into our marriage, my wife and I, we had a really important conversation about our life and about our future. We'd been married for a few years. We were working at a church. We knew a lot of people, this whole thing, but something was wrong. And we sat down and we realized that even though we knew a lot of people, and even though we had all kinds of events and activities we got invited to, that our relationships were shallow at best. And my wife and I had to sit down in the mid-90s and have this conversation earlier in our marriage and say, hey, we need to develop some friendships or we're gonna be in trouble, because this is not fun. We were experiencing something called crowded loneliness. And many of you know that feeling. You're surrounded by a bunch of people, even in a room that's packed like this or watching online, you might feel like, you know what, I felt that before. A lot of people know who I am, but I don't know if I have a lot of close friends. I experienced that crowded loneliness. So my wife and I, we decided to reach out to one of the neighbors in our neighborhood. Their names were Rob and Lori. Rob and Lori seemed like a nice couple. They didn't seem like the kind of people that would freeze our dogs. So we said, hey, let's invite them over for dinner. So we invited Rob and Lori over for dinner. And at dinner, I literally, like a junior high boy asking a girl to dance, I just was like, hey, we invited you guys over because we don't have any friends. So do you guys want to be our friends? My wife's looking at me like, what are you doing? It's gonna scare these people away. And they looked at us and they're like, we really don't have any friends either. So yeah, let's hang out, I was like, yes. Lori, the wife, she had been a follower of Jesus for about 3 years. Rob was not a follower of Jesus. At that dinner that night, he says, hey, I like you guys. You seem really nice. I just think you believe in fairy tales. So as long as you're good with that, we can be friends. And I was like, absolutely. I think I can beat you in golf, so we can hang out. So we hung out. And to make a long story short, over the years of friendship, Jesus showed up supernaturally in Rob's life. And my buddy Rob is a follower of Jesus to this day. And here's the thing. I look back on that time, and I'm so grateful that God slowed my wife and I down enough to say, hey, we've got to build some relationships. We've got to walk with people on their spiritual journey. And in the process, we grew. In the process, we were stretched. We had to be around people that we didn't necessarily agree with or see eye to eye with, and we were stretched and we grew spiritually. And now we have some lifelong friends in the Claytons because we just took a chance. Back in the 90s, my wife and I discovered that being in community is like rocket fuel for our spiritual lives. I didn't say it was always fun, but it's good. So since the Cowboys last won a Super Bowl, it's been a while, we have set aside Sunday nights in our home. We say, hey, that's community night. And that's when we have a group or we're in a group or we connect with other people. In just a few minutes, I'm gonna tell you how to get connected with that. But first, I wanna tell you another reason that I love community. Another reason I love community is when we circle up, when we're faced with a challenge, when there is a need, we work together. I love that about community. Just like they did in Acts 2:45, it says they sold their property and possessions and shared the money with those in need. And something incredible happens when you roll up your sleeves and you work together. Whether it's saying, hey, we're gonna help watch each other's kids so we can do this community thing, or we're gonna bring meals to a neighbor who's got cancer, or we're gonna take care packages and deliver them to soldiers overseas, or we're gonna serve refugees in Fort Worth. When you serve other people, what it does, it produces in you an unselfish, it's not about me attitude that our world and our hearts desperately need. It's one of the things I love most about mission trips. Maybe a group is not for you, but maybe a great way to start getting connected with community is go on a mission trip. Because when you go on a mission trip, you get out of your comfort zone, all of a sudden everyone's dirty, everyone smells the same, no one's counting carbs, no one's paying attention to style and fashion. You're just holding kids, you're throwing concrete, you're making a difference with your life, and you're building relationship. Something supernatural happens when you serve in the context of community. Acts 2:43 says it this way, it happened back then, it can happen today. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. You wanna be filled with awe? You wanna experience some miracles, some wonders? Go on a mission trip or get your community group together and get off the couch and go out and serve in the community and show love to other people that desperately need it. Come to Uganda with me next summer and we'll work with 900 kids in northern Uganda. It makes a difference in your heart and your life. Another reason why I love authentic biblical community is when we get into it, we struggle together. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how some people do life alone. And my heart breaks today for those of you who are in this room who feel lonely, who feel left out, who feel like you don't have someone that really knows what's going on with you. God does not want that for you. I don't want that for you. Compass does not want that for you. Because every single one of us needs a friend who will listen. I don't care how tough and bad you are and all of this, guys, you need a friend. You need a friend who will support you, who will help you through your struggles, who will be there and stand with you. Here's the thing, in our pride, you know what we do? We say, you know, this whole community thing is just not, I just probably don't need it. I got it. I can do this on my own. But the problem is sometimes we don't realize how important community is until we go through something and we can't make it through it without it. We got to have those people around us. I want you to watch this incredible story of struggle and hope that takes place when people struggle together. Let's watch this story.
Our granddaughter, Ryan, 14, told us all about Compass, and she said, if you come, you'll love it. Subsequently, after that, they announced Rooted. Ryan talked us into it. We signed up for the Wednesday night service with Rooted. That's how we came to Compass and eventually into Rooted, all because of our granddaughter. Now, it was about 1 week after we finished our Rooted class. So as we were leaving, we had stopped at a red light, and the light turned green. Debbie was driving. She began to make a left turn to get onto the interstate. I looked up and saw this big black pickup coming right at us, speeding, but he hit us. T-bone on the side of the car where I was in the passenger seat and Ryan was behind me. When I looked up, I saw Debbie beating on the side of the car, and she was screaming she had to get into Ryan. Then it dawned on me that Ryan was behind me, and I had to see how she was. And then I noticed that they had gotten Ryan out of the back and put her in a stretcher, and were taking her to the ambulance. We were asking about Ryan. Where was Ryan? Jeremy came into the room. He walked over to his mom, and the first thing I hear him say was, "Mom, remember that God works in mysterious ways, and we don't always know." We broke into tears, and we cried and we bawled, and I was demanding to know why, and I didn't understand. And then I was told that there would be a celebration of life at Compass. Well, we finally got to Compass, and when I arrived at the church, the entire Rooted class was there. We talk about family. I was surrounded by family, but then I saw in the distance these other people that had become our family in Rooted. These were strangers 2 months ago, 3 months ago. It was just amazing. They prayed for us. They got us through so many times, so many sessions of pain, of sorrow, of grief. Of course, I couldn't move, so I sat and prayed, and I would think about why me? Why did I survive that car wreck and Ryan didn't? And then finally, I started answering it myself. Maybe I could find a way to bring people to God. A few months after that, Drew was talking about Rooted, but they were saying they needed facilitators. So I have just facilitated my first Rooted class. I see this experience as turning my grief into service to the Lord. I don't know if I have the answer to why me, but I do know that I want to be with people. I want to help people, just as my Rooted class helped Debbie and I.
In Paul's letter to the Galatian church, in chapter 6, verse 2, he says this: It says, carry each other's burdens. And in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. That's exactly what David Martin's Rooted group did for him. It's exactly what we're called to do for each other. I can't imagine losing my daughter like that. Man, this has choked me up every service. Did you hear what David said? He said, I want to be with people. I want to help people. You see, when you go through something like that, and you come out on the other side and you're saying, I want to help people, I want to be with people. The Martin family has started a foundation. They're amazing people. They're here today. I'm so honored that we could share your daughter's story. Thank you. And I see it all the time. I see it all the time at Compass. Someone goes through something tough. Someone had a heart attack just a few months ago. And none of the pastors from the church were at the hospital. They didn't know what was going on. But the people from their group were. They were there praying for him, encouraging him. So as we close today, I want to tell you one more thing I love about community, and it's the thing I love the most about it. See, I mentioned Jesus and his small group earlier. Okay, get through this, Brandon. And if you read the Bible, you'll discover that Jesus, when he spent time with his group, man, they learned together, they laughed together, they ate together, they had conflict together, they did amazing things together, they grieved together. And I know what you're thinking. Of course they did, Brandon. Jesus was in the group, for crying out loud. Right? He was there. But I want you to imagine something. Imagine if I told you, like, hey, this Tuesday night at 7 p.m., I got some inside information. Jesus Christ is coming down from heaven, physical Jesus Christ, and he's gonna start a community group in Grapevine at 7 p.m. on Tuesday night. I mean, whether or not you believe in Jesus or not, how many of you would be there? Right? You would show up. I mean, you would figure out what to do with the kids. You wouldn't care how many weird people are there. You wouldn't care how busy your schedule was. You wouldn't care if your worst enemy was there. You're like, I want to be in the presence of Jesus. I want to be in that group. But here's what we need to remember. While Jesus was physically present with his disciples and with his closest followers, when we gather together in groups, when we get together in our rooted groups, in our community groups, Jesus is there. The Spirit of Jesus is there. And I think we forget that. The story we just watched, the support, the peace, and the calling out of such tragedy only happens because of the presence and power of Jesus Christ in community. It's what we need. And I believe that's exactly what we need. And that's the thing I love the most about community, the presence of Jesus. I believe that's why Hebrews 10:25 says this. It says, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing because of kids and crazy people and all that stuff, but encouraging one another all the more as you see the day approaching. Listen, community is not always easy, not always fun. I told you we do community on Sunday nights. If you think I want to be in our group every Sunday night, you got another thing coming. There are nights I want to have some me time with the TV. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm just not in the mood to deal with other people. I've had a bad week, a rough week. And then I go, and you know what? It's not some incredible night. It's not like, we baptized 7 people in our pool in the backyard or something. But I do recognize that I'm just building relationships. I'm just building friendships, and sometimes I have to wake up and realize, Brandon, maybe you're going to this group not for you. Maybe you're going to this group to be a friend for someone else. Maybe that's what Jesus has called you to do. Not be so concerned about, I'm not getting anything out of the group. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe it's for the Martin family. Maybe it's for the next family that goes through difficulty, or maybe it's for you someday. See, I think we forget about the presence of Jesus. I think we just think we're having meetings. I think we're just here to, did you like the music today? Did you like the message? Do I want to be in the group? That's silly. This is all about the presence of Jesus Christ and his power. This is what I believe. I believe the best version of your life can only happen in community. It's true for me, it's true for you. Listen, if you're a high school student in here today, I want to say this to you. You got to get into some community. You got to get into some Christian community, because I don't know how you make it through high school right now. I have no idea. All the temptations, all the things that are trying to pull you away from God, I have no idea how you make it through without some people in your life who are speaking truth into your life, who are challenging you to follow Jesus. I don't know how you do it. And I see a lot of heads nodding, and you know what? Here's the truth. So sign up for a house group. If you're a high school student, sign up for a house group this fall. Get into a group. I don't care if you don't even like anyone in the house group. You need to be around people that care for you. But I see a lot of heads nodding. All the adults are like, that's right. These kids need to be in there. You agree with that. Do you know what? You do too. You need someone speaking truth into your life. You need encouragement, no matter what stage of life you're in. You need someone caring for you, supporting you. You need it. So if you're an adult, the best way to get connected around here is go through something called Rooted. I went through Rooted a few times before I really connected. If you've already graduated from Rooted, you've been through Rooted, we're really excited. This fall, we're starting something called Life in Rhythm, and we're inviting all of our community groups, or those of you, maybe your group's not together and you want to get the gang back together and go through Life in Rhythm. The materials are right out in the lobby out here at our Rooted kiosk. You can check it out, or you can go online and learn more about Life in Rhythm. Or for those of you who have been through Rooted and you're just not connected and you're like, you know what, I just need some help finding a group. We have a group connection event called Group Connect. It's coming up on August 24th, 10 a.m. at the Colleyville campus. Take a picture of this screen and just make that your commitment. You know what, I'm gonna get involved. I'm gonna get connected in some way. Get into a men's group, get into a women's group, get into some kind of group where you've got support and love. Because we need to be better connected. Not necessarily for ourselves, but for the people around us, for the world around us that is dying to see the church be a place of love and connection and community and not judgment and hate. Let's be known for what we're for, not what we're against. Let's put Jesus Christ first and let an unbelieving world turn to Jesus because they want to be part of this community. Let's pray together. God, I thank you for your grace. I thank you for your love. I thank you for Compass Church. May we be a church where nobody stands alone. And for those who are lonely, who are those who are feeling despondent today, don't let the devil lie to them and tell them they are worthless and garbage, but God, may they know that they are special and valued in your sight, that they are loved, and that the people here and the people watching online, God, we want to come together and know each other and know your power and your presence. We ask this in your name. Amen. Thank you, guys.